welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards.
It's Sunday, November the 14th. Welcome back to another D3D4 Football Podcast. On the show this week, we talk about a table-topping side's unbeaten run continuing and in impressive style. We talk about some red cards from a well-renowned man who likes to hand them out. We'll be talking, yes indeed, we'll be talking about a unbeaten home run coming to an end while another one continues unabated, and we'll of course be rounding up all the action in the best divisions on earth in League 1 and 2 as always. My co-hosts are with me in full this week, Chris Stringer, Dave Jenkin and Ed Walker. How are you doing, boys? I'll start with you, David. Good point for your boys yesterday as well.
Yeah, very lovely point. Seemed to have riled a good few Sheffield Wednesday fans, which is always a nice thing to do for little old Gillingham. But
Kelsey,
yeah,
please.
feeling pretty happy with that point, but slightly disappointed that we didn't get all three, to be honest. But
sign of the times, isn't it? It's 2021. Sheffield Wednesday at home to Gillingham, and Gillingham fans are disappointed they didn't get all 3 points. Chris, no change in your form, but it was always going to be a long shot going to a team like Exeter. But how are you doing in general?
Yeah, if I ignore the football, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, busy as always. And yeah, Saturdays are the same as always.
Mr. Walker, you were at a couple of games yesterday, was that right?
Yes, I had a very cold day in Stoke-on-Trent. Very cold. I should have brought more layers in. I was at the Port Vale Bradford game, the early kick-off, and then I went to see Hanley Town, who had Ryan Shotton playing in defence, which I wasn't expecting to see.
There's no such thing as a warm day in Stoke-on-Trent, though, is there?
Yeah.
Lukewarm, maybe. I don't know.
The funniest part about yesterday was that Hanley game, and Lee Hughes, if you remember him, was playing for the opponent's Stalport Swiss, and he got sin-binned.
Oh, they do sin-bin.
There's a sin-bin down that level. I think it was bad language at the referee. I must be thought he's something now, but he was playing. It was quite fun watching him run around or trying to get near the ball.
Is he player manager? I seem to remember he was player manager.
I think he's player coach. I don't think he's manager. I think he's assistant coach, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I
remember he had one good back heel, and I think that was about it to all he contributed.
Amazing. Right, let's jump into the action, and we'll start, as we always do, in League 1.
League 1.
And guys, Plymouth Argyle, I'm running out of language to express how impressed I am by what Ryan Lowe is doing this season with the Green Army. It's just very, very difficult to understand how a team that was so poor at the end of last season have suddenly become pretty much unbeatable. I mean, they lost the first game of the season, and it's 16 games unbeaten now for them. But it's not just the way they're making sure they don't lose. It's the way they're winning. I mean, to go to Accrington yesterday and play like they did, it's just really, it's making me start to sort of think that this is the real deal. This is a team, that are going to hang in there and be right up there for the campaign, and I wouldn't be surprised looking at how they're playing if that was the case, and the depth that they have. When you consider that Luke Jeffcott wasn't there yesterday on international duty, and no Danny Mayer, but yeah, they still put out a side that made Accrington look a poor team, and that's quite difficult to do at the Crown Ground.
Yeah, it's just dominant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely dominant yesterday, and you have to give a shout out to Broom as well, because what a goal he scored.
Yeah, I think he's flourishing, isn't he, in the sort of the system. Didn't do too well at Peterborough.
He's a 3-5-2 player. If you go back to his time at Charlton, he flourishes best in it, and he's kind of filled that void that Danny May occupied as that prime creator, the prime attacking threat in there, and then Benucci Kamara is more box to box, and Jordan Houghton's a bit more of a sitter. Works really well.
If he likes a 3-5-2, I've got a shock idea for a January move if he wants it.
A bit of Barrow.
They're doing so well. And in terms of just the data as well, open play XG, third best in the division behind only Oxford and Rotherham. Really impressive stuff.
One loss is not fair. I mean, I think someone really needs to have a word with them, because that just shouldn't be allowed.
I do wonder how long this is going to go on.
Well, who knows?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, there's no reason that it can't continue a bit longer.
What's the record? Because it was Huddersfield in inverted commas, which wasn't a real unbeaten run.
No, it doesn't count.
Looking at what's coming up, they've got to go to Charlton, host Wickham, host Wigan, go to MK Dons, go away to Sunderland, and then host Charlton again.
If they go unbeaten in these next 5 games,
if they get through that, I'm convinced they're going all the way.
Yeah. You have to look at them and think that they probably, the thing for me will be when they do lose, and it will happen. How they bounce back and just can sort of let that roll off their backs, because it has to be the case for teams that lose a game. And we talked about Sunderland. It's very easy to see a team go on a run of poor form that's set off by just one random defeat, and it'll be interesting. But they have got to go to Charlton next, like you say, and Charlton are doing really well with Johnny Jackson in charge. Another win yesterday. Not all that surprising in some respects, but the highlight here, Ed, was 2 red cards inside the first 20 minutes or something, wasn't it? For an off-the-ball altercation between Jayden Stockley and his old teammate Deshi Oshalaja. And yeah, it looked a bit like handbags, to be honest. It didn't look like there was any punches thrown or anything nasty. Guys scrappling on the floor. I didn't think red cards were particularly necessary.
But then you see the officials and you see it's Trevor Kettle and you think,
I was going to say,
now I
by
understand.
Trevor Kettle standards.
Trevor Kettle is something else.
He is, isn't he? He is. People go, oh, well, he's just got a bad rep. It's not really true. No smoke without fire, Sonny Jim. This referee, his reputation precedes him, and he does like a red card. In most games that he's in, he does it, and he does it in that way where he lifts the red card in such a. It irritates me. Just the way
he wants to be the centre of attention at every match, and that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, we don't criticise referees generally speaking, and I can see why he gave red cards, because there was a bit of a melee in that. But if
you know the name of a referee, he's probably not doing a good job.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the other thing you'd argue though is if players know it's Trevor Kettle, you've got to be on your best behaviour.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to give him an excuse.
I'd love to have seen it actually from the beginning, because the problem is by the time the camera pans in towards it, they're already on the floor. I'd quite like to have seen the whole thing from the start to see who kind of initiates it, really.
But I think it looks.
I imagine they're just tussling. It's a corner, so I imagine they're just tussling to try and get in front of each other to get the ball, and then they just end up on the floor.
The only thing that matters though is that Charlton got another win, Ed, against your boys in yellow. Again, Jimmy Floyd was talking about this being an unlucky defeat, and you can see perhaps why it's fairly even in the stats and that. But what do you make of what do you make of this result? But Charlton in general as well, because they're doing really well since a managerial change took place.
Well, the general consensus from the Burton fans seems to be that it's another defeat where they've had a lead glove on them, which is not encouraging when you've got MK Dons next week, and they're probably going to have about 90% of the ball. But no, it's this. I'm not too surprised Charlton won this. I think I'd love to see them give Johnny Jackson a permanent go, because I think he's been deserving of it, really.
Well, he's a club legend, isn't he?
The work he's done so far, it's just everything about it just feels right. There will come a point where this good form obviously drops down a bit, but for a Charlton side, we've always thought have got the qualities to be in the top half, pushing to the playoffs. He's got them looking back on track towards pushing towards that.
Yeah, he's playing sort of it's like a 3-1-4-2, something like that. I mean, what I like is the fact that he's using wingers, Jaisimi in there, and I hope that he gets Kirk playing as well as he was at Crewe, because that's a great asset that they haven't utilised fully yet. Gilby and Lee in that midfield partnership with Dobson sitting, that worked quite well by all accounts yesterday. And obviously Stockley going off early, it didn't particularly affect them. Obviously, 10 aside, I suppose it's whoever adjusts the best to that. And Charlton went ahead of Purrington again, scoring. He's in a little run of form, isn't he, in the goal scoring terms? So that's good. And he was playing kind of like a left wing back sort of thing yesterday. So good to see for Charlton. It was a bit of a disappointment the way that it went with Nigel Adkins, and I can see why the fans sort of turned pretty quickly with the way they were playing. It wasn't just bad luck or anything like that. It was really poor performances and a lot of chopping and changing of the side. So, but Bolton got a win on Friday night, and it's not a surprise. I'm not being unfair to Crewe, but it is not a surprise that they managed to get that win. But much needed, Ed, because this is a Bolton side that at the start of the season looked like they were doing really well. We've talked about Ian Evatt's comments and stuff, but in general, they hadn't looked themselves for the last few games, despite the fact that they were playing in the same style, fairly good possession stats. But finally they get the goals. Started off by a penalty, and then Bakayoko making it safe. 2 goals in 4 minutes, enough to sink Crewe. But yeah, big win, important win in the context of the run they were on.
Yeah, very important win for them and much needed. And what can you say about Crewe?
What can you really say about that?
You think about
they're a bit crap.
You think about the teams who were down the bottom last season in Shrewsbury and Burton, and they both benefited from changes of managers, and I just don't think Crewe would do that. I don't think he'd do that to Artell. I feel sorry for him.
It's not his fault.
It's not his fault. No, it's just situation. And you lose that immense amount of quality they had. What can you do? Any team that lost that immense amount of quality would be in a difficult position right now.
It was always the way of Crewe's model that it had to come crashing down at some point because players were inevitably going to move on unless Crewe, were to have a miraculous push up to the championship. It was always effectively inevitable. And the thing for Artell is that you've got to hope that there's more coming through the Crewe youth ranks, which there almost certainly will be, knowing the quality of their setup. Dropping down to League 2 is not the end of the world for Crewe because there will be players coming through. And also in the context of the last 2 years, having sold some players is probably quite good for them. It'll probably give them an advantage over other clubs in the long term.
Probably. I mean, they've made the money, haven't they, from the sale of those players, and they haven't gone out and done anything lavish and made expensive mistakes. That's something that you can say. So, yeah, there is some good positives in that. I mean, the problem is their XG against from open play is atrocious, and they're giving up far too many good goal scoring chances. They lack solidity. They lack sort of the cohesion that they had in previous seasons. They played a 3 at the back against Bolton with Adebisi and McFadzean as
it's quite a defensive. It's like that sort of 3/5, isn't it?
I think they knew they weren't going to have a lot of the ball.
I think if you bottom the league and go into Bolton, I probably would play that formation, to be honest.
Well, I mean, they're not defending well anyway. So what are they to lose from actually attacking?
Well, getting absolutely pumped.
Yeah, if you play open against
Bolton. I mean, the bottom of the league get absolutely pumped, but go down trying.
But then it's that thing, isn't it? Does that kind of thing massively damage your confidence? It could even be the situation where you look back and think, if we had lost by 6, that goal difference might have kept us safe.
I mean, they've got 9 points from 17 games. I can't think their confidence is great anyway.
I have to say I'm with Ed here. I don't think playing open against a team that you know is actually better than you and plays. If you play open against Bolton, we've seen what they've done to better sides. I mean, didn't they thrash Ipswich, who tried to do that against them?
That was a very end-to-end game, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult in the position that Artell's in not to try and just get a result that he can then build something from. The problem is, at the moment, it's very difficult to see how he does that. But Bolton, nice to see them win. Josh Sheehan with a really well-taken penalty, kept his cool, and just getting back to winning ways, which is important.
Unbeaten in 1 now.
Unbeaten in 1. Yes, that's a really good stat of the week.
It sounds like something I'd come out with.
Yes, that's right. Well, that's it. Sort of a Dave thing is if you don't draw or lose, you only get to win. Yeah. No, we're a great podcast for this side. Classic. But yeah, important win for them. Ipswich and Oxford drew out 0-0. I thought good first half, where both teams are playing decent football. I'm not sure what Oxford were doing in the second half. I'll be honest. I think maybe we
had a couple of penalties, I thought.
Yes, well, perhaps.
At least one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there certainly was, but I'm a bit forgiving for referees when you look at them and you think like he hadn't got a great view of either, and that's maybe his fault for bad positioning. But the linesman should have helped him out for that first one where.
The first one was Stonewall, I thought. I mean, the second one was a bit ambiguous, so you can forgive it, but the first one was blatant.
Yeah, the second one, I actually didn't think, watching it live, that it was a penalty. The first one was just ridiculous. He's just basically got a handful of the player. But I think it would have been harsh on Ipswich if they'd lost that, to say the least. They were far better side, especially in that second half. Played really good attacking football, pushed Oxford back. Oxford's histrionics are not something to be proud of, I think, at times, but it's game management, I suppose you could say. But nice to see Simon Eastwood get a clean sheet. Nice to see Oxford do enough to earn that, because we tend to be a side that can give away a soft goal. I look at this and Ipswich manager Paul talking about promotion, talking about automatics, talking about playoffs. I mean, playoffs I can see them doing it, actually. I think they've got enough quality. They play good football. Unlucky yesterday not to take 3 points. And, not on an awful run themselves. They are, a side with such quality and strength in depth. I mean, we talked, didn't we, Ed? I think we talked about Joe Pigott being what an important signing he'd be. But he's not getting much of a sniff at the moment, which does kind of highlight what a good squad Ipswich and Paul Cook have at the disposal.
Yeah, well, you think about how many they signed. I forgot they had Sonny Aluko until he was scoring a couple of weeks back.
Yeah,
there's someone else who pops out that scored. You think,
£7 million man.
There's so many people there.
Sonny Aluko, was he £7 million for Reading at one point in his career?
Most likely.
Yeah, that was a flop.
The depth of that squad, they could probably put up 2 teams, to be honest, in this league. They've got so many players in there now.
Yeah, Ipswich fans, they were left frustrated yesterday. I think just because they like I say, they probably deserved to win it. Hit the post twice in the first half, but actually weren't that good in the first half. Second half, a lot better. Really came out on the front foot, pushed Oxford back. I thought Morsey was excellent. I think Evans and he made a tough midfield pairing, which Oxford, considering the quality we have in midfield, struggled with, actually, which was good. Edwards was good. Bon was useful. He always is. And you can see why he's scoring so many goals. His movement's good, his intelligence is good, and he's quite a brave striker. He'll score goals at this level for sure. But in the end, a point taken on the road for Oxford, and I'll take that all day long at Portman Road. Thank you very much. MK Dons, another 4-1 win. Back-to-back 4-1 wins, if I'm not mistaken. And again, just when they're on their game, and they've got these guys in this team like Max Waters and Scott Twine, just the duo. I mean, they're just so good, aren't they, at times?
Yeah, I mean, they've played really well yesterday as well. Just their interplay and the way they've just been able to, obviously Twine coming into the squad and the way he's been able to pick up that style as well. And then with Liam Manning coming in, they're looking very, very strong. Just in general, looking very strong as a side, and they're going to be something formidable moving on to more of the season, especially with that partnership developing.
Well, what I'd like to see from them. Sorry, Chris. I just to say, what I'd like to see from them though is to create better and more scoring chances. I know that seems rich talking about a team that's just won 4-1, but actually, if you look at the data, the amount of possession that they have, they dominate the ball, and they're probably in the top 10 for XG from open play, but they can definitely improve in that area. They're actually overperforming, I think, their XG at the moment. Maybe it changed after yesterday. But, this is a team that have such good strikers. They have great finishers, and they have depth on the bench. Patron was, on international duty, and they had Mo Easton on the bench. This is a quality side in terms of what they can offer in terms of firepower. So the only criticism I really have of them is that I'd like to see them create better scoring chances in general, because they'll rip teams apart if they can do that. But Chris, what was your input on this?
Well, mine fits on quite nicely to that, because what I was about to say is it's impressive to see all 4 goals come from Twine and Waters in terms of that partnership. But you're absolutely right that it is a little bit concerning that if one of those was to get injured, you're then things look a little bit more awkward. So yeah, I think it would be nice to see more of the team chipping in with that, if you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, just create better chances, because yesterday you have to say a couple of those goals were just excellent and brilliant finishes, but you're not going to get that every week. What you need is a few scrappy tap-ins. Yeah, you need to just create this sort of chances. I mean, Oxford are very good at creating chances. I think we lead the open play XG figures, and but the problem is we rely very heavily on Matty Taylor. No doubt about that, and that's left us, I think, a little bit wanting in games where we haven't killed teams off. We saw it in the FA Cup against Bristol Rovers. Like, Matty Taylor was really the only guy who looked like scoring, and he was very unlucky not to score more. But with MK Dons, if they can just create a few more chances, if they can use the ball a little bit better, and this is a work in progress for sure, but then they'll be formidable. They've got a great squad. Cambridge, it was a difficult afternoon for them. I think, like we talk about them often, they won't be happy. Mike Bonner won't be happy with the performance, but overall they've been putting in some very good performances, and getting beat by MK Dons on the road is not something that will define their season, to be quite honest. This is a team that just need to keep grinding out the results when they can away from home, but their home form is going to be important, and just beating teams that are a little bit more alike to them, I think, is what will be important for Cambridge. Gillingham, come on then, David. 1-1 at Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday fans having a meltdown on Twitter. I mean, as a Gillingham sport, what's this under hashtag things you love to see, is it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, as I said right at the start, I personally think that we were a bit unlucky to not take all 3 points here. Like, the goal that they've scored is after a shot, and it's deflected off Jamie Cummings and then been tapped in very nicely. But, granted, we didn't cover ourselves in glory within the whole space of the game, when as soon as we scored, like as soon as Vidane Oliver scored, we basically started, like, I'm going to use the phrase game management tactics, but what I really mean is time wasting from like the 22nd minute.
Game management tactics.
That's not game management. You're not getting that away.
Yeah, I mean, you can, in fairness, not just to go there to Hillsborough and get a point, but also the fact that we had a youth player, Bailey Ackhurst, started his very first game. We had 14 players in the playing squad. Dan Phillips had just come back and he played 90 minutes after being 2 months out. And to get a point at Hillsborough, that's ridiculous to me. Like, a squad that's basically just being patched up every week, because, I mean, granted, it's our own fault for signing injury-prone players, but we're just being patched up every single week, and it just seems to be, like, I think before this game, you'd take a point on the road to Hillsborough anyway, but I think on the balance of play and looking at the game, probably could have got the 3 points out of it, but won't complain about a point away to Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, indeed. And Ed, Sheffield Wednesday, 7 unbeaten. Slight issue with that is that 5 of those are draws.
Yeah, you mentioned how impressive it is you get a point at Hillsborough. I feel like most teams have got a point at Hillsborough this season, to be honest. I'm looking at these results here, and it's a bit weird. They've drawn with teams like Cheltenham, Lincoln, Cambridge, Wimbledon, Gillingham, and then they've beaten Sunderland, Bolton, Wigan. They seem to be able to beat the bigger sides, but get draws with everyone else.
Yeah, it's
very weird, isn't it? And then you also had the defeat to Oxford at Hillsborough as well.
Yeah, that was.
But is it a case of? Is it just a case of underestimation though? Like they're underestimating the sides that they
the other way around,
consider to be smaller.
I suspect they're raising the game.
I think that might be made out to be better than
bigger
they are,
in inverted comma teams.
Yeah, maybe I agree with Ed that they're not as good quite as they are, and they also don't they have like a couple of their sort of more natural finishers out at the moment.
Yes, I think they do.
Gregory and I forget who else it is, but that's got to play into it as well. I mean, to be honest, this is a team coming down into League One, right? And we've seen it before. Big side coming down to League One. It's not that easy to adjust because you're going to have to win a lot of battles before you can start playing the sort of football that Barry Bannon will be able to really thrive from and then give you that benefit. And League One's like that. We saw Sunderland struggle. We've seen Ipswich.
You wait till
struggle.
Derby come down next season, they'll all be the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be easy. Apart from that season where we had, was it Blackburn and Wigan?
Yeah, and Hull bounced back well.
Hull did. Yeah, Hull
did.
bounced back well, and Rotherham do it every year. So, but they're just like it's weird. They're just weird anomaly, or Rotherham, aren't they? They're just, they come down, go up, come down, go up. I think it's 6 times in a row or something now, or something ridiculous. But yeah,
could do similar as well.
Yeah, I mean, so Sheffield Wednesday, you look at the data as well. It's a bit meh, and that is kind of what they are. They're a bit meh. They're a bit mid-table in XG from open play. And I look at open play because set pieces are massively important. Rotherham's XG from set pieces is ridiculous. It's something like 11. And they've scored 11 from set pieces. It's absolutely crazy.
Mad.
Wickham again, also pretty mad in that respect. But yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, not great in the open play XG data, not great in the XG against data either. It's sort of very much run of the mill stuff. So you'd expect them to be where they are based on those data findings, and indeed that's where they are. Portsmouth finally got a win at Wickham. Of all places, I mean, this one was quite a shock to me because I thought this is a difficult one for Portsmouth. But no, Marcus Harness, who else, gets the goal. And try as they may, Wickham just could not get back into the game despite having 21 shots and a penalty.
Alex Bass had some game, didn't he?
That was a shocking penalty.
Joe Jacobson is fallible, everyone. My goodness. Who would have thought?
He is mortal.
He is, indeed, yeah. I mean, his set pieces are as good as a goal certainly right up there. I'd hate to think what they'd do without him from corners and stuff. But yeah, no, really good performance from Portsmouth. They set up with like a 4-3-1-2, so they had this midfield quite well packed, quite a compact formation. Let Wickham have a bit much of the ball and the chances, but actually, game plan in the end worked well. And one thing that our writer Phil Slatter, who has given 5 things we learned about this on our website, and might be worth having a read if you're a Wickham or Pompey fan, certainly. But he talks about the Pompey fans being superb here, absolutely backing their side to the hilt. There's 1,400 of them there, but despite the fact that Danny Cowley has not had a wonderful start, it's been a bit indifferent, hasn't it? They were absolutely behind him, and that's something that's hugely encouraging, because I still very much believe that Danny Cowley is the right man for Portsmouth. I still think this is a work in progress, because
I don't think they're going to get a better manager. I'll put it that way. I don't think they're going to get a manager that's more dedicated to the cause that they've got.
Well, they're not in a bad position either, are they, to attack the playoffs? I mean, they've got a decent squad. They've got that awful run behind them now. They're 4 unbeaten, and that's
5 points from the playoffs. All right, a couple of games in hand from Oxford and MK Dons, but I mean that's very, very doable.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got. I'm sure they'll improve in January. The thing is, for me, about Portsmouth, and the thing I wasn't expecting, was quite the turnover this summer in terms of the quality that they let go. It's pretty difficult to lose those kind of players, and in one summer replace them all and still be as good. I mean, just doesn't happen. But there'll be people, I'm sure, who are not Danny Cowley fans, saying that this is him kind of finding his natural level. I don't agree with that. I think he'll get them, he'll improve them, and given time, Portsmouth will be a massive contender at this level. It's just they're in a bit of a transition season, I think. It's fair to say at the moment.
That's very fair to say.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly right. And as we look at the table, Ed, I haven't missed any League One teams, have I, this week?
No, you're on track here.
I just checked because I'm notorious for this. Right, so the table then: Plymouth Argyle top, 36 points from their 17 games, plus 17 goal difference as well, which is very good. Wigan played a game less, 34 points, so they could overtake them theoretically. Rotherham, Wickham, MK Dons and Oxford United, an interesting quadrant of teams in those playoff places. And just outside, this is the thing that you've got to look at, just outside the playoffs, you've got Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich and Portsmouth. Those 4 teams, not really what you want to see in your...
Bolton not out of it either.
No, well, of course not. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, those 5 teams, all teams with...
Hang on, if Bolton on it, why aren't Cambridge and Burton? They're on the same points.
I was going to say, Ed, by that logic, but
I'm getting offended if you... even though we'll go in the wrong direction, I still want to say that.
I'll take your point on Cambridge, but Burton direction of travel is taking them out of it.
And I think Cambridge fans, even with their most optimistic hats on, would probably be happy to stay... Would take where they are now as a very good season, based on what they have in the squad. But I mean... it's looking in Oxford's rearview mirror here and seeing those teams. It's going to be an interesting campaign to come. It really is. And if we can,
it's better than our rearview mirror, James.
Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. At the bottom, Crew, like I say, 9 points, minus 19 goal difference, 17 games played. Doncaster minus 18 goal difference, 12 points from their 16 matches. Fleetwood only played 15. They've got 14 points. Shrewsbury in that bottom 4. By virtue of having conceded, or with a minus 7 goal difference compared to Morecambe's minus 5. So, and Gillingham, that point, a very important point, you might end up saying, because they've got 17 points from 17 games, sitting in 19th place as we speak. So there we go. Right, let's go. It's League 2.
League 2.
And League 2, I've got to start with the Friday night game, because Hartlepool had not lost at home this season. And Newport under James Rowberry turning up and just doing what they do. Courtney Baker-Richardson and Dom Telford, both on the score sheet again. and Hartlepool, who are managerless as it stands, losing their home record. Ed, what a home record it was, but I suppose it had to come to an end at some point, and perhaps not surprising that it came on Friday.
I mean, it still is a phenomenal home record, even with this one defeat. But yeah, I don't think anyone's too surprised it was going to come to the end at this point. Being without Dave Challoner, it's amazing the job he had done at Hartlepool, and we'll see what he does with Stockport in the future. Newport, I'm loving under Rowberry, and particularly the form of that front two. Telford's joint top scorer at the minute with Matt Jay on 10 goals. And I think for the last 2 years, the top scorer in League Two has kind of emerged from somewhere we weren't expecting, not one of the favourites. And I wonder if Telford could be that, because he is flying at the moment.
Yeah, and I thought he did really well to get enough power on that header, when you looked at it, to get it past the keeper and into the net in, 93rd minute or something?
93rd minute.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
I do like the team they've got. I haven't seen a huge amount of Cooper, the chap they've got on loan, but Upson is a good ball-playing midfielder. As we know from his time at Charlton, is good, and especially at this level. Cameron Norman, I don't think has missed a minute this season.
I think that's a great pair. They've got Ryan Hayden's at left wing back and Norman at right wing back. Great pair of wing backs to have. And then you've got someone like Mickey Dimitri, who we saw under Flynn, is able to kind of bomb on down that left-hand channel as an overlapping centre-back. Dolan providing a base in the middle of that three, and then James Clark on the right-hand side.
James
I
Clark's
really like
good
this Newport team.
Yeah, I think James Clark's done well since coming in to replace Priestley Farquharson. Ed Farquharson.
There's no D in that name.
And of course, you've got Joe. People forget they've got Joe Day in net. And a very good backup in Townsend as well.
And I've got to say, Chris, I've noticed they've been playing Christopher Missalou at centre-back every now and then.
They have, yeah. They played in
the
Pizza Trophy, didn't he, midweek? Is that right?
He's been used there 2 times, yeah.
He's not a very tall fellow, is he?
But neither's Dolan. And he
That's
plays
true.
the heart
This is
there.
true.
The way they play...
You can almost kind of put them in the centre as that kind of quarterback role, can't you, in a way? The centre of that back three.
He's an excellent holding midfielder, so yeah, I guess.
That's what Newport do, though, isn't it? They put holding midfielders in the heart of their defence to be like you say,
ball-playing defenders.
Yeah, to play, be your ball-playing centre back. You've got 2 experienced guys either side of him to sort of cover. But yeah, I do like this team. I do like what they're doing. Really impressive. Great goal by Baker Richardson as well, who hasn't had an injury-free run for some time. This is the first time he's been able to do that, and he's looked very, very good. So Newport under James Rowberry doing fantastically well. He actually lost his voice, he said. So, not down to his team talk by the sounds of it.
Did you see Dave Challoner's first match in charge for Stockport?
No, what was fill me in?
It was against Bolton in the cup. 5,000 county fans at Bolton, 2-2 draw.
Oh yes. Oh, I
they got a replay on Tuesday.
Yeah,
apparently it's a sellout at Edgeley Park, I've heard.
Wednesday, I think, isn't it? But yeah,
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit gutted that I'm away because I would be up for that.
Absolutely, yeah, great Stockport team. Like I say, I saw them as a kid in the Championship, so and they had a good team. Some really interesting players. Big Kev Francis, I think, was one of them.
That was I'm sure there's a DVD somewhere. I've no idea where it is of him that my dad had.
Moving on to Exeter then. They are the only team in this division with a home record unblemished by a defeat, and they continued that trend yesterday. Giovanni Brown finally scoring in a 2-1 win over Oldham. He's been fantastic this season, and he's deserved that goal. No doubt about it. He's really been a link man in their attacking trident with Matt Jay and Sam Nombe. Sam Nombe is phenomenal. There were people questioning his attitude and stuff when he joined. Absolute, and I said that's a load of rubbish. There's no issues with his attitude. I'd spoken to people within the game who were telling me that's a great signing, and I took their word for it. And frankly, it's turned out to be the case. A superb player, and just works his socks off. Pacey, gave Oldham's defence a pretty hard time by all accounts yesterday. Matt Jay scoring again. And
we were poor though, weren't we? It's just another week of being. I know it's Exeter. I know it was likely to be beat, but we were just poor again.
Yeah, Keith Curle's time.
I don't
think it's up, to be honest. I think he'll. In fact, I'm pretty sure he'll get a lot longer. But nice to see Bowden score. Nice to see.
It's a quality finish, but I said this on the podcast that never aired. I don't know how he can stay in the job as he is.
Will be interesting to see. Cisse's made appearance on the bench, as did Jamie Hopcutt. So these are meant to be 2 cornerstones of the side, apparently, according to Keith Curle. When he signed Hopcutt, I've never seen Keith Gill get that excited about a side.
No.
So this guy's obviously, he's done really well abroad. It'd be interesting to see if they can get him in there and fit and get him firing, how good he'll be. But God dear, it's not.
The thing is, though,
not been
I
great.
feel like this is the age-old question with Oldham as well, though, isn't it? Because you get rid of Carl, but no matter who you bring in, does it really make a difference? Not just with the playing squad that you've got, but does it really make a difference with the hierarchy behind?
So,
is it really making any kind of difference if you make that managerial change now?
as a broad rule, no. But I think, having seen the managers under Abdullah's ownership, I think Keith Curl is the worst. I know this isn't helped
Really?
by...
That fascinates me, because I think it's a very good manager at the level.
And part of my sort of, rationale in this is that we've not had a manager that's had more say over transfer policy. These are...
You also, let's be fair though to Keith Curl. You also haven't had a manager who's had to work under the agreements of the monitored loan agreement, which allows you only to pay a maximum salary of about £800. That means that if you play a youth player, they count as a main player in your squad. There's a reason that Keith Gill had to go for the targets he did, some of them with checkered injury history. So, in fairness to him, it's not been...
This is true.
It's not that easy just to say, well, he's got say over transfer kitty. Well, if I took over, I don't know, Guildford City down the road here, my transfer budget was like £5, and I could only pay.
I think you get decent left back for £5.
Well, he's got Benny Couto playing well. That's
Benny Couto is a good player. I don't know. I'm not excited by him, and
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, James. I think because we as Oldham fans have made a big deal about wanting managers to get longer, I think he's going to pick this manager to give longer because...
But I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think if you've got a manager in recent years who's got a record that deserves him to get a bit more time, I agree with Ed. He's done well at this level, so it's not a bad thing.
No. And
he's actually, I think, carried out a pretty good job in terms of what he's had to deal with and the dignity he's held with all the problems.
Yeah, by and large, he's been very dignified in his leadership. It's not the best time to be in charge of Oldham with the protests that have been going on, and they're ramping up again next Saturday, I think. So yeah, it's been a tough time for him, but I'm very much not excited by it. And he's always got an excuse. There's always an excuse that he's bringing up, and for once,
although to be fair, like his line of "it is what it is, deal with it." He doesn't. He has an excuse, but he doesn't make excuses in the same term.
I'm one of the big. His 3-5-2 formation is not working with the players at his disposal at the moment. He's far too rigid in keeping that formation.
He is. I agree. But it is what it is. Let's be honest. Like, we knew this would be a difficult season for Oldham, and it's turned out to be that way.
Yeah.
Come on, man! You're stealing Exeter's thunder here. This is outrageous.
I'm very sorry.
They're just great. No, but Exeter, in fairness, a great side.
I think Exeter should be top of the league.
Well, they've drawn too many games.
That's the thing. They've thrown away so many points. If they didn't throw even half of those away, they'd be clear of Forest Green by now.
Yeah.
Cheers, Ed. That's another Dave comment.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's now starting to become an Ed comment. It's like...
If they won more games, they'd be higher up the league.
I love this podcast. I think we should get an award for this kind of stuff. Mansfield Town, guys. Mansfield Town.
Can't say anything anymore.
If there's an award for common sense, then we've won it, guys. We've won it.
Yeah, there's nothing. Stating the obvious, there's people should do that in
Let
politics.
me guess, did Mansfield Town win by scoring more goals than Stevenage, James?
Shockingly,
they actually did.
Wow, who would have thought it?
They did. They went to Stevenage and they beat them 2-1. And this, I thought, was a bit of a result for Alex Ravel that you can't lose this game kind of one, and they lost this game. Bit worried for him. I think Mansfield deserve a lot of credit for sort of turning around what I was getting quite worried about was a really poor run of form. They're still playing on Ollie Hawkins as a centre back. John Joe O'Toole, who you said wouldn't play centre back, has done it quite well actually, Ed, in the last few games.
Yeah, but in League Two he was always a decent player, going back to his Northampton and Bristol Rovers days.
Yeah, you don't have to be quite so.
It was League One where he's looking quite out of his depth. I wonder if League Two could be okay. I hope he is.
I do like that. Like they managed to get. There was question marks over the fitness of some of their players. Hewitt came through. Lapsley came through. Obviously, they're playing Oates up front on his own. But to be honest, just get the results. Just get yourself moving in the right direction. They have a good squad, Mansfield, overall. Yes, they've got issues defensively. Rawson, I think, came back on the bench. Forrester fit, the guy on loan from Stoke is another option that they've got going forward. And Sturck finally making an appearance, and he obviously hasn't played much since coming in. So, and got a goal, to be fair to him. So a big win for Mansfield. Stevenage in big trouble, and a team that I can see making a change in the dugout, despite it being Alex Ravel and a guy that obviously played for them and was very popular there. It just, something needs to give. They're not looking particularly good. However, a big surprise to me was Joey Barton's Bristol Rovers 2-1 winners against informed Northampton. That feels like a pretty good result. Whelan sent off in the second half for a silly second booking. Perhaps shouldn't have made that challenge, but Anthony Evans exploited a defensive mishap to score. He's done really well since joining. Really impressed with how he's been. He's basically their most creative player, and they needed a player like that. But they're not without injury problems. They've not had their best 11 yet, I think, on the pitch this season. The fact that they had Ant Evans and Nicholson up front just shows where they are in terms of the players that they've got up front being unavailable. I think Thomas was the latest one to go down with an injury. Brett Pittman missing as well. Saunders is out until New Year. They've got some real issues fitness-wise.
Glenn Whelan now suspended as well.
Yeah, and obviously they brought in Leon Clark, didn't they? And he's basically got almost a career-ending hamstring injury. So, although Thomas made the bench, which is good. It's good to see. I thought he would be out for a bit longer, but no, he did come through. Interesting though. Nice to see them sort of in front of their home fans getting a result, because it's been a difficult, I suppose, 18 months, isn't it, for Bristol Rovers? I'm still not sold on Joey Barton, but they played well against Oxford. They kept themselves in the game in the FA Cup, and obviously we've got that replay coming up. I think
the field don't endear him either, do they?
No, exactly. I mean, they've got, what I liked about the way they've been playing is Kilgore's come back and impressed. Taylor looks good and Harries looks good. So these back three, quite impressive. And if those three can maintain a level of performance, then I don't think Bristol Rovers will be too bad. And you've got to remember, they brought in Nick Anderson, Mark Hughes as their sort of main defensive experienced guys, and they've been out. Or Mark Hughes certainly has. Haven't seen him for ages. He's been out injured for quite a long time. You'd argue that Yarkala, their first choice goalkeeper, is out with an Achilles injury, but James Belshaw's been very, very good as a replacement. And Harry Anderson's kind of played in almost all the positions that you wouldn't expect him to play, but mostly the right wing back. And he's done well, so a very big result for them. And Northampton will be disappointed, because they've been on an absolutely great run of form. And so to lose here against a team that have been struggling, they'll be disappointed. But I think Northampton are a team to keep an eye on. They've been.
I was going to say, I think this game strikes me more as it was Northampton messed up. Bristol Rovers came in, took advantage of it. Because it doesn't strike me as the kind of game that Northampton should have been winning, but their mistakes are the things that cost them in this.
Yeah, certainly they didn't do themselves any favours defensively, did they? Especially for that second goal, which Evans took really well, to be fair. But yeah, and Ed, Port Vale 1, Bradford 1. It wasn't a great game in terms of the quality, but I thought it was quite a good game in terms of the thunder and the determination that you get at this level.
Yeah, it got pretty feisty in the second half, definitely. I think it was a lot more entertaining than the first. I recall Bradford in a couple of halves having a couple of very good opportunities through Theo Robinson and Charles Burnham that really should have been taken and could have very easily found them ahead of the break. Their goal they concede from Vale is a absolute calamity from a Bradford perspective. Songo just completely failed to get the ball, and Wilson just sneaks through and gets around the keeper and ends up scoring such an easy goal. He is in great form, to be fair, but even still, that was a gift. The ball in from Fold, so the equaliser for Angol, was terrific. I love that, and they looked a different animal with Angol on the pitch.
Nathan Smith didn't just hammer it into Rosette, or at least down the pitch. He kind of.
I still loved that ball in when I saw it. It was a great header. Angol It's someone I've known a lot through Football Manager, to be honest. He's a name that's very familiar. It shows I haven't watched him live, though, because I didn't think he was that big. I thought he was like a 5'10" guy. He's a very good size to him. Really good. I understand now why he's been so useful for them.
It's a great finish, though, isn't it?
Yeah, great header. Great header.
Did stay on the pitch?
Yeah, he should have been sent off.
I don't remember. To be honest, I had to pillar him away. That's Vale Park for you, so I didn't see the tackle.
Hey, don't talk about the Wembley of the North like that.
The Wembley of the North. Yeah. It was poor. The referee bottled that one. Someone said on Twitter that he actually brought it back for the foul by Levi Sutton. That's
Trevor Kettle won the brought it back.
No, exactly.
No, he would have sent everybody off.
He'd have had 2 red cards.
It was that's a poor excuse because the referee let the play go and then blew up after Threkoll made that awful tackle, second tackle. So blatantly, referee just should have done the right thing and sent him off, but he didn't. But a point apiece, not bad for either side. I think Port Vale have been on this great run of form.
I don't think Vale were that good on the day, so to get a point is pretty good.
I don't think they were particularly good. Carlisle and Barrow drew 0-0. Carlisle's still in big trouble. Great crowd here, 7,400, of which I think 1,700 were Barrow fans. But it just, it doesn't. The game itself didn't enlighten. It didn't come to much. And from what people were saying, it wasn't a brilliant 0-0. It wasn't a bad one, but it wasn't a brilliant. And I think if you look at how much of the ball they had, Carlisle will be very disappointed that they didn't. They didn't make it count. They didn't take their chances. I looked at the BBC stats for this. They said that they've got Carlisle making 4 substitutions.
Interesting.
Yes, I imagine one of those was probably through concussion. On the first half, I would have thought. You're allowed to do that. Yeah, you were permitted to substitute if that's the case. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, that's good. Okay, that clears
it's a new rule this season, isn't it? It's the concussion substitution rule that's throughout the EFL and Premier League.
So if you're out on your arse and you really are knackered, you just have to say that you've got a concussion.
I don't think you'll get away with that.
Oh, okay. That's a shame because that'd be a bit of a sneaky way of getting on a late substitute. Rochdale, Alex Newby back in the team, getting a brace in a 2-2 draw with Leyton Orient. I think Drinan has been in great form for the O's. What performances he's been putting in recently. But not enough, his goal in this, to see them get another 3 points. They've got a great squad, actually, Leyton Orient, but they have been drawing too many games, and that's been the case with themselves, Exeter and a few other sides that we've talked about. But I do like this team. I do like what Kenny Jackett's got. In terms of just the strength in depth, the system he plays. But we know Rochdale always give teams a good game. They've got good strikers, good attacking players, and they got a result with a very late equaliser. Harrogate and Sutton both going strong. Tranmere losing 1-0 at home. Peter Clark, usually so dependable, and actually made some good defensive moves in this game.
He's done that a million times and never failed, and it's come to haunt him this time.
Yeah, Sutton are a team that they relentlessly press, and he was just caught. He was just caught there, wasn't he? Yeah. Dallying on the ball, and they had 65% of the possession, right? But Sutton had 17 shots to Tranmere's 16.
But I think Sutton are quite a direct side, I've noticed. There's a really good size to all their players, and they're
very
not
athletic
afraid
as well,
to send it forwards and just try and knock it down and get onto rebounds and everything like that.
Yeah, only 1 shot on target from Tranmere. This has been the problem. They had 16 shots, 1 on target. Elliot Nevitt getting a new contract, which I think is a very good move because I liked what I've seen from him so far. But yes, certainly for Tranmere, this was the problem that they were having when they weren't scoring before. They have a lot of the ball, but they weren't really creating enough good chances. They weren't taking chances, and again at home, in front of, they always get decent home crowds. A very well supported club. They'll be very disappointed. With
Still only 11 goals, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't scored enough. But well done Sutton, and well done Harrogate, who blitzed through Walsall, went to a 3-goal lead. Phillips getting a consolation goal. First defeat in 7 or something like that for Walsall. They were on a very good run, 6 unbeaten before they played this one.
Did you give them the tag? Is that what's happened?
No, I didn't. I was very clear.
You sure?
I didn't mention any sort of colours or shades of colour or
to be fair,
any equestrian animals.
Do you see the tweet we got?
James, James was like the complete opposite. He literally said that he was refusing to do anything like that. So, maybe it was the refusal that did it.
Maybe.
The refusal caused it.
Maybe. I don't know.
What's that about the tweet, Ed?
We got someone. Was it a Crew fan asking us to make them their dark horse for relegation?
Yeah, the Crew fans asking us to make them dark horse for relegation.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I'm not sure that is a thing. I don't know.
Not when you are where you are as well, right?
They're going down. I'm sorry.
The other thing as well is that a dark horse, when we call someone a dark horse, it makes them worse. So if you want Crew to have no more points for the rest of the season, we can do it.
Well,
no, but they want to be a dark horse because we normally say dark horse for promotion.
Yeah. And calling them a dark horse makes them worse. It doesn't work the others away for relegation. It just makes them worse, Chris.
For relegation,
it's a double negative, Chris. That's what it's a trick, isn't it?
It doesn't work like that.
I mean, I think this is a very accurate science. Okay. And
Here we go.
I think if you invert the direction of travel due to the dark horseness, I think you also invert the points total.
Well, okay, let's make Crew our dark horse for relegation. I mean, how can you make?
Sorry, Crew.
How can you make a team? Sorry. How can you make a team though who are like only got 9 points so far in the season a dark horse for relegation?
Yeah, already.
That's going to take some explaining to people.
I feel like the best way to make it seem like it is what James has already done. Tell them they are going to be relegated, and usually the opposite comes out on this podcast anyway, doesn't it?
I love this idea that we can tempt fate.
We can try.
We are the gods of football.
Yeah, indeed. And, the gods of football smiled slightly on Scunthorpe. They drew 1-1 with Moneybag Salford. I think Keith Hill's got a very big task on his hands there. I know he changed up the formation. He had Alex Kenyon back. That could be a big thing. That's his first appearance for some time. Obviously been out with a hamstring injury. I mean, there is...
Very narrow.
Yeah, well, yeah, the width being supplied by Jai Rowan and Mason O'Malley maybe. But Salford really underperforming. And if they'd lost this, I would have been expecting a club statement. I really just think that...
I kind of still am, to be honest.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's weird, isn't it?
Next week
Gary Neville and the Class of 92 have been really criticised for their hasty sacking of managers. I actually think they're being too patient with Bowyer.
Yep.
Like, this is a team that supposedly is targeting promotion. They're nowhere near it.
Yeah, nowhere near.
Nowhere near it.
So,
are you just going to keep doing this, or is something going to change?
I had a look at the data, and they're still top 5 for XG from open play. Their pressing stats are very, very, very good. And their XGA is not too bad, but they're just not doing it.
I remember watching them last week against Dagenham in the FA Cup, and they went ahead after 3 minutes, and they were really under the cosh against that Dagenham team. Connor Ripley really did well to keep them in that.
They were poor. There we go. Deep analysis there on Salford City. The league table hasn't changed a huge amount. Forest Green is still top. Port Vale second, and Exeter move into the automatics, which is where I expect them to be this season. They're a very, very good team. Northampton, Harrogate, Newport and Swindon in those playoff places. That win for Sutton, though, moves them level on points with Swindon, despite Swindon playing one game less. Leyton Orient, the other team on the cusp of the playoffs. Hartlepool, be interesting to see who they get as their new manager. And Bradford only 4 points out of the playoff spots as we speak. At the bottom, Scunthorpe still remain on 12 points, so they still remain bottom, but they're only a point out of away from safety now, because Carlisle only on 13, Oldham sandwich in between them in 23rd with only 12 points from their 16 games. They're a better goal difference than the 4 teams immediately around them. Right.
I'm intrigued by that relegation battle, though, with 2 points between them. Obviously, as of right now, 16 games played, 2 points between 24th and 21st could make it a very interesting situation.
It will definitely be tight. But I'm afraid we're out of time. We will monitor it closely. But guys, thank you for your input today, as always. Thank you to our patrons as well for supporting this podcast. And thank you to our partners, The Big Step, for all the work you're doing in highlighting the troubles that people have with gambling addiction and the amount of advertising that the gambling companies are putting into football. It needs to change. But guys, until next week, it's goodbye from all of us.